So let's think about what are the best practices for deep ethnographic interviews. First of all, make sure you choose the right persona. Make sure you're talking to the right people. Okay. Sometimes you may be talking to somebody who is an economic buyer, not a user buyer. In this case, you're trying to talk to the user buyer. Always go in pairs when you do the interview. Why? Two things. One is one person can really observe and take notes. Another person can focus on engaging that user. And sometimes you realize when you go there that the lead interviewer does not have a chemistry with the customer. You can switch the roles right then and there. Understand the user. Again, talk to extreme users. This is important. What are extreme users? There are two types of users are extreme users. One is the new users, because they don't know your product yet. So they're going to struggle and stumble a lot more. And they're going to tell you a lot more insights. And the second type of users are people who are power users. They use it much more than anybody else. And that's why they're going to come up with stuff that nobody else is going to come up with. And so these two type of people you got to talk most, because the middle 80%, even if your product sucks, they have gotten used to sort of working through it. And they are the silent majority. They're not going to give you insight. Talk to extreme users. Interview in natural habitats. Go in their office. Look at what they do. If you go and talk to payroll administrator, you will start seeing big calculators, Excel files on their sheets, multiple Excel files, and you realize, man, these people live in Excel. And you start thinking completely differently what kind of user interface you're going to provide in your payroll applications. Observe them carefully, right? Ask open-ended questions. Don't ask questions where they can say yes or no. Do you like this feature? That's yes or no question. And that will shut you down. Ask them, describe your experience of something, right? So ask open-ended questions. Visualization is key. That means draw something. Ask them to draw something, actually. Ask why multiple times. That will allow you to go deeper. And don't ask why. That will annoy people. If you ask why 5 or 6 times, that will annoy people. There are different ways of doing that. One is sometimes you just give a silence. And people like to actually fill the void, so they keep talking. Sometimes you say, tell me more. Sometimes you say, why? Sometimes you say, why this is important to you, or what are the implications on your business, right? So you can ask the why multiple times in different ways to get to the deeper insight instead of understanding only the symptoms. You're trying to find a root cause, right? Ask them to show, ask them to draw it. First thing we used to do in one of my previous companies, tell them, show me how you set up your payroll. Show me how you do it. And they walked me through, and we realized, oh, these guys do completely different thing. But that's what they do. If that's what they do, we have to make sure our application is not only aligned, application is really solving their problem. Ask them to draw. How would you do it? If you had all the power, how would you do it? And you will realize that they will draw some amazing stuff which you have not thought about. As I said before, ask them how they feel. Very, very critical. And again, keep showing low fidelity stuff and getting feedback. So these are some of the best practices. You could apply those to other elements of getting insights as well, but interviews are one of the most common, and I wanted to cover that. The next thing is best practices for effective idea generation. Best practices for effective idea generation. So again, give limited time. Don't give open-ended, like, oh, we have several days and we're going to go and now figure out how to solve this. No, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes. Short sessions. Time constraints actually make people a lot more efficient in this situation. Defer judgment. Don't judge. Don't shoot anything down. Just take note of all the ideas. No ideas are bad ideas. Encourage wide ideas. Only thing you're allowed to do when somebody else is talking and giving his or her idea is build on their idea. You're not allowed to pass any judgment or say, oh, it doesn't work. We tried that before. That's not the time here. Okay. Stay on topic. One conversation. Be visual. That means draw. Ask them to draw. Low fidelity sketches, because that will bring it to life. And then go for quantity. Go for as many ideas as you can get. So these are some of the best practices for effective idea generation. Then the next thing is what things to consider for making those tough choices or trade-offs. So first is look at customer impact. If I solve this, this way, what would be the impact of the customer, right? What would be the level of impact? Is it high, medium, low? Whatever the major CVs, right? Understand the customer impact. Second thing is, which is very critical, market evidence. What does that mean? That means how many people want it or how many people would want it based upon what you know, right? Because if it is a problem that only one or two big customers want, but the rest of the market doesn't, you are building something very niche. That is a huge mistake. Okay. Then the next thing is, even if these two things are there, customer impact and market evidence, both are there and solid, what's the cost of development? If it is going to take a year, 2 years to build that, that means for a year, 2 years, you have nothing to show for. Go to market and test and get feedback. So you have to actually look at, we call it typically t-shirt sizing. It is small, medium, large. Then OMTM. Make sure you understand the one matrix that matters. OMTM is one matrix that matters. Every business should have one metric that matters. What is the metric that matters for airline industry? Number of passenger miles flown. It has two elements in it. One element is, that means you're trying to make sure the plane is full, number one. Okay, you're trying to be as efficient in making sure you're selling and allocating the seats quickly. Okay, that's one. Number two, you're also making sure the plane is less on the ground and more in the air. So you're turning the plane around quickly. One metric captures that. Number of passenger miles flown. Okay. Same thing. Every business should have your OMTM. Time to market. How long? We talked about, right? If it takes a year, 2 years, you have nothing to show, nothing to test for. Does it have revenue impact? Ask that tough question. Does this feature that I'm going to add eventually lead me to revenue or not? And is this sort of constituting my MVP, sort of the core bare minimum use case that will solve some problem? Or is it more of nice to have or bell or whistle? What does this give me? Does this give me user growth, or does this give me quicker validation for my concept? And last but not the least, is if you have a bunch of things, if you have a bunch of features or a bunch of ideas to solve for, is it solving 100% problem for a group, or is it solving 70% for everyone? And choose if there is something that is solving 100% for a group instead of trying to solve 70% of everyone, because that is going to delight nobody. So again, these are things to consider while making trade-offs. Trade-offs are hard. Prioritization is hard. What works? So let's look at what works. Things to consider in testing a prototype. We talked about low fidelity. Hand sketches on the paper works beautiful. Goal is to get input, not to sell. You're not going to an end user and trying to sell and hear from him or her that, oh, this is beautiful. That is not your goal. While that may be your deeper desire, your real goal is to get input. Your goal is to really look at the speed of testing, how fast you can test and how fast you can get feedback. Now, the question is, how much testing is enough? How much testing is enough? The simple answer is, you continue to keep talking to users until you stop getting any new insights. You start pretty much hearing the same thing. That means you have come to a point where now you have gotten most of the gist, at least for this iteration. Once you get there, get to higher fidelity. Then the way we do that, or most companies will do it, who follow design thinking, is you start with low fidelity hand sketches. You test it, both internally, externally. Then once you have a pretty good sense, you go for next level, which is wireframe for a software company. You build wireframes. Again, not that expensive if you have good designers on hand, right? And then you take the wireframe and start showing, and continue to build and get feedback and make adjustments, and then maybe have a demo, right? And show the demo. The demo could be like not fully baked MVP, but something that kind of gets the point across, and then eventually build an MVP. Continue to test and validate. Okay.